The House hearing room was tense, brimming with cameras, aides, and political theater that was about to erupt in ways no one present could have predicted. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi and Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett were seated just a few feet apart, both invited to speak on the latest series of investigations tied to political accountability and campaign ethics. Bondi, known for her sharp tongue and unapologetically combative style, had come ready to spar. Crockett, a rising star in the Democratic Party, had established a reputation for her directness, her refusal to be intimidated, and her ability to use words as her most powerful weapon. What was meant to be another marathon of statements, procedural questions, and partisan attacks took a dramatic turn when Bondi, unable to hold back her frustration, suddenly raised her voice at Crockett, yelling the words that would later dominate headlines across the country: "Stop talking." It was a moment that instantly froze the room. Bondi, with her pointed finger raised, looked more like she was scolding a subordinate than addressing an elected official. The tone was unmistakably patronizing, sharp, and dripping with anger. Even several Republican aides shifted uncomfortably, aware that the cameras had caught every second of the eruption. But if Bondi thought that yelling would silence Crockett, she was badly mistaken. The Texas Congresswoman leaned back in her chair, adjusted her microphone, and paused, long enough for the silence to sting. Then, with a calm voice that contrasted starkly with Bondi's fury, she delivered a response so steady, so composed, and so devastatingly direct that it spread across social media within minutes. "Pam," Crockett said evenly, her tone unshaken, "I was elected to talk. I was elected to speak for the people who sent me here. And if my talking bothers you, maybe it says more about what I'm saying than the volume of my voice. So with all due respect, your yelling doesn't silence me. It just shows America who's really afraid of the truth." The room went silent. A single gasp from the audience was audible. Cameras zoomed in on Bondi's face, where a tight smile quickly dissolved into a visible scowl. Crockett didn't flinch. Her delivery had been measured, free of anger, and grounded in the authority of her office. Within seconds, clips of the exchange began hitting Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. The hashtag #CalmVsChaos trended by the afternoon, with millions praising Crockett for her composure under fire. Commentators across the political spectrum had to weigh in. Some conservatives defended Bondi, claiming she had been provoked. But even among Bondi's supporters, many admitted that yelling, "Stop talking," in a congressional hearing looked more like a meltdown than a show of strength. Crockett's allies were quick to capitalize. Progressive groups circulated the clip, framing it as yet another example of women of color in Congress being spoken to with disrespect, only to rise above with poise and sharp intellect. The contrast between Bondi's shout and Crockett's calm words became emblematic of the broader political climate, one side seeking to shout down dissent, the other responding with quiet, unshakable determination. Political analysts noted that this wasn't just a random spat. It was a microcosm of the deeper ideological battles gripping Washington. Bondi, who had served as one of former President Trump's staunchest defenders during his impeachment proceedings, represented a hardline conservative approach that thrived on confrontation and media soundbites. Crockett, on the other hand, was part of a new generation of Democrats who leaned into authenticity and transparency, unafraid of viral moments but careful to craft responses that resonated beyond the Beltway. CNN's panel replayed the clip multiple times that evening. One analyst remarked, "You could see Crockett making a choice in that moment. She could have yelled back. She could have matched Bondi's energy. Instead, she knew the cameras were rolling and chose to make her calmness the story. And that's why her response went viral. It wasn't just about what she said, it was about how she said it." Fox News, meanwhile, tried to reframe the incident, suggesting that Crockett had been intentionally goading Bondi by interrupting. "Bondi finally had enough," one host said. But the visuals told a different story. As many online users pointed out, it was Bondi who had raised her voice first, crossing the line from debate into outright shouting. The next morning, editorial pages were buzzing. The Washington Post described the exchange as a symbolic clash between political styles, the shout and the silence. The New York Times highlighted how women in politics, especially women of color, are often told to stop talking, in both overt and subtle ways, making Crockett's calm pushback even more powerful. Social media only amplified the narrative. One viral tweet read, "Pam Bondi yelled. Jasmine Crockett didn't blink. That's power." Another wrote, "This is why Crockett is rising. She doesn't just win arguments, she turns them into lessons." By midday, Crockett herself addressed the incident in a short statement posted to X, formerly Twitter. I represent Texans who work hard, struggle, and still believe their voices matter. No one, not Pam Bondi, not anyone, gets to tell me to stop talking when I am here to speak for them. The post was retweeted over 100,000 times in just hours. Bondi, for her part, tried to explain her side on conservative outlets, saying, I just wanted to get a word in. She wouldn't let me speak, so I said what I said. But the defensive tone didn't land well outside of her base. Even some longtime GOP strategists admitted privately that Bondi's outburst had hurt her credibility. As the dust settled, one question lingered: why did this moment resonate so widely? The answer, analysts suggested, was that Americans are exhausted with the noise of politics. Shouting matches dominate cable news, yet here was an example of someone choosing restraint and dignity in the face of direct hostility. Crockett's calmness made her words heavier, while Bondi's yelling only made her look rattled. The timing also mattered. With the 2026 midterms already on the horizon, both parties are looking to sharpen their public images. Democrats saw Crockett's exchange as a gift, proof that their younger representatives could withstand the toughest confrontations and come out looking stronger. Republicans, meanwhile, were left scrambling to downplay the optics of one of their most prominent voices losing composure so publicly. The incident even spilled into late-night comedy. One host joked, Pam Bondi yelling, "Stop talking in Congress" is basically the GOP's new platform. Short, simple, and it shuts down dialogue. Another quipped, Jasmine Crockett has the patience of a saint. If someone yelled at me like that, my calm reply would have been a shoo. But for Crockett, the moment wasn't just about virality, it was about reinforcing her message. In subsequent interviews, she emphasized that she wouldn't let anyone, no matter how loud, diminish her role. I'm here to legislate, not to be silenced, she told MSNBC. If standing up calmly against shouting gets people's attention, then good. Because the real issues, the rights of our citizens, the accountability of our leaders, deserve to be talked about, no matter how uncomfortable it makes some folks. By the end of the week, polls measuring public perception of political figures showed a small but noticeable bump in Crockett's favorability, particularly among younger voters and independents. Bondi's ratings, however, dipped slightly, especially among suburban women who cited unprofessional behavior as a concern. Political operatives began to speculate, could this be the moment that propels Crockett into a more national spotlight? Already floated as a potential Senate contender in the future, her handling of the Bondi outburst gave Democrats a fresh clip to fundraise off of and rally their base. For Bondi, the path looked harder. While still influential in conservative circles, she now carried the stigma of having lost her composure in a way that gave her opponent the moral high ground. Ultimately, the clash between Bondi and Crockett wasn't just about two women raising their voices, or not, in a heated moment. It was about the future of political discourse in America. Would the nation continue rewarding the loudest shouts, or would it start valuing the quiet strength of calm replies? For millions who shared Crockett's response, the answer was already clear. Calm had triumphed over chaos. And in a time of endless shouting, perhaps that was exactly the message Americans wanted to hear.